Started. Gewaltig. Talk to Hilge Mishnah. On the bottom of Daf Chav Heyadays. Mata Begal Ubekoisel Yoshan. You found objects in a pile of rubble, or Ubekoisel, or in a wall, but they're both Yoshan. It's an old ruin, or it's a old wall. Hare Elu Shaloi, you're allowed to keep it. The Gemara is going to explain what Elu Shaloi means. Mata Bekoisel Chadash. What if you found it in a new wall? So it can't be very old. Everyone knows in the Yisroel the walls are very thick. They can be 2 feet thick of stone. So if it's on the outer half, Shaloi, we'll assume someone from the outside came and put it there. But because we'll assume the balabais put it there. What about what if this house wasn't lived in by the owner of the home, rather it was rented out? The Bach sticks even if you find something in a house that's a rental, you can keep it, and we're going to have to talk about who's keeping it and who's finding it and who's living there now. Tana, we learned, why is it that if it's old, you find it in the old wall, it's finders keepers? The finder could tell the owner of the house or the owner of the pile of rubble, this must have belonged to them. As Rashi says, we yarshed the land from them, and therefore he gets to keep it. So before we get into this a little deeper, there's a lot of questions that arrive. So first of all, Shaharishu Avisenu, I assume means they were Yerush from our fathers. So maybe we originally lived in Yisroel, now we're out, and now in times of the Gemaras, times of the Mishnah, they came back. So it could be this is belong to Goyim. So the first question is, so this is in my wall. So if it's in my wall, why am I not koined? Shouldn't my wall be koined for me? Bekin Yechatzer Zol Zayin, it belonged to Emariam. But right now it's in my wall. So why was I not koined? That is the very first question we have here. That's question number one. Question number two. Well, first let's deal with question number one. Question number one is, why would I not be koined? So there's a Tosfos over here that says on Amar Aleph, Tosfos says the Yeshloimer Tosfos on top of the Amar Aleph, the Ein Chatzer Koine B'Davar Sheyachal Liyos Shelo Yimtze Enu La'olam. Since it's possible that you're never going to find it, could be there is no Kinyan Chatzer. It's possible it would never be found. The Rambam goes a step further. The Rambam says, he compares it to Zute Shal Yam. And Dr. Rambam, we know if something is swept away by the ocean, anyone can take it. We say there's no automatic yush. So the Rambam makes a couple chaymer. Madich, if something actually belongs to you, if it's not recoverable by anybody, it's Ovid Mikola Olam. Nevertheless, we say you lose your ownership on it, and anybody's allowed to keep it. This object that's in the wall that never belonged to you, belonged to Emariam. But you never knew that it was there, you might never know that it was there. It's Ovid Mikola Olam, Kol Shekain, that you shouldn't be able to be koined. That's what the Rambam says. Oh, as an aside, my nephew told me over a beautiful thought yesterday that Mamish Nageya, it's Nageya to the Inyon of the Yoima, and it's also Nageya to our Masechta. So in Megillas Esther, all the way at the beginning, where it talks about the party that Achashverosh made, it says as follows. So Ish is referring to the Goyim, because we know the Yidden and the Goyim were mitzdarif to the Sudas Achashverosh. So Ish is referring to the Goyim, and Ish is referring to the Yidden, and Voish is referring to the Goyim. Who's that with us? Because Ish is Rosh Tevos, Ein Shum Yush. We never give up. A Yid never gives up. We always have the Rebbeinu Shalom who's going to help us. Voish is Yosh. It spells the word Yosh. That's like a goy. A goy has no hope, but a Yid has hope. That's what my nephew told it over to me. It could be he said it with more Tuf Tam Vadas, but that's the part that I got. Okay, Gewaltig. So Tanum B'Teishi Yochal Leimer Lo Shel a Mariam Haim, and therefore they don't belong to you. They don't belong to you. As Tosha says, you're not koinit b'chotzer because you don't know about it. Frek the Gemara. A Mariam Mitzani, Yisroel Lo Mitzani. Who said that Mariam hid this here? Maybe the Yid hid it. So how could you take it? Maybe it belongs to the homeowner. Maybe he put it there. Dr. Gemara Lotzricha the Shasicht. It's very rusty. It was very rusty. And the Balta was very rusty. It was clear that this is something that's been there for a very, very long time. So it was from the Yemei Amerim from long before we were there now. And therefore, we will say that the person who owned the house wasn't koinit, as Taishva says, and therefore you can keep it. Because al chadash, if it was a new wall, so we assume someone placed it there recently. Amr Abashi, Sakina. What if it was a knife? It doesn't matter if it's on the inner half and the other half. You know why? Because Basar Kato, depending on where the handle is. If someone puts a knife into a wall, he'll probably be holding the handle as he puts it in. So if the handle is facing the inside of the house, it for sure belongs to the Balabais. And if the handle is pointing to the outside of the house, no matter where it's found, it belongs to the people on the outside, and therefore you could take it. The kisa, and the same thing would be if it's a money kiss. Normally you would hold it by the opening. So therefore, if the opening is facing you, you probably put it in. But if it's the other way, then someone from the outside put it in. It doesn't matter how deep it in is. Basha Shanti, it goes basar the open. The Elamasnis the Katani, the Mishnah that says Mechetzi lechut shaloi, Mechetzi leflim shel balabais. What is it referring to? The Lechse, Ikata lagav, Ikata labar, Ishanta lagav, Ishanta labar. Why should it matter where it physically is in the wall? Shouldn't it matter by what the object is, where the handle is? So tomorrow it's speaking by an object that doesn't have a handle. It's speaking by a clump of wool or a piece of gold or silver, which doesn't have a specific handle, and therefore the way we would determine who put it in is by where in the thickness of the wall is. If it's towards the inside, we'll say the Balabais put it in. If it's towards the outside, we'll say somebody from the Shuk put it in. Gewaltig. Zog the Gemara weiter. Tana. Im haya kaisel memula mehen. What if it was the whole wall from the outside all the way to the inside was full of this wool? So then the halach is chayach and you split it. Didn't we just say that the part that's closer to the inside goes to the balabais, and the part that's closer to the outside goes to the finder? So the mishba b'chad gisa. Let's say the hole in the wall inclines from the inside to the outside, or vice versa. Let's say it was all placed either from the outside, and therefore you can keep it, or it was all placed on the inside, and therefore the balabai should be able to keep it. Kamash Malon. And why should the Balabais have to keep it? Because it probably was all placed on the inside, but since it was on an incline, it rolled down. Kamash Malon, you don't say that, you split it 50-50. What if the Balabais rented this house to a third party? That's what the Mishnah said. Let's say he belongs to the last guy. Who is the last guy? So let's see what Rashi says. Rashi says, let's see what Rashi says this. Rashi says the last guy, later on we're going to see Rashi is referring to the last renter. Let's say it belongs to the last renter. Tosfos says, no, let's say it belongs to the Balabais. So let's just take a quick peek into Tosfos. V'nezel basar basra. Well, first of all, Tosfos points out, what do you mean if he found it in the house, then it's not on the Veda? So Dr. Tosfos, Mari Shematza Bazar Inyan Shenir Shu Aveda. It's dropped in such a way, it's scattered that clearly it's an evade. The Lezel was a Basra. So Ktoshis, you know that is the Hainu Balabayis. Let's say it's the owner of the house who's there now, he should be the Basra. The Mistamal Olam Hudor Bebesoy, Ima Soichim, even though he rents out his house, he probably lives there with the Soichim. V'terem Shaholchu, and before they left, Chavshu Chavtzeim, they probably made sure to take all their things with them. They looked for anything that they may have left there. The Chibdu Abayis, and they swept the house clean, and therefore and they probably didn't leave anything there. And therefore, therefore we would say that the Metzia doesn't belong to one of the people who left already. It probably belongs to the Balabais, Shadayin Nishar who was remaining in the house. Like if you found money, okay, so that's weiter. That's weiter in the Gemara. That's where Rashi says, and that's where Rashi says that it's the Basra is the last renter. But we'll see that in Rashi soon. So Zok to Gemara. So what we're saying here, Fake Gemara about my Lezel Basra. Why didn't you always say it belongs to the last one there, either last renter or like Tosfos says it should belong to the Balabayis? And I'm going to prove it to you that when we have a suffix of it came from someone more recently, or if it comes from somebody further back, and we know that there's a check in between. We know that the last renter is going to sweep the house clean to make sure that he didn't leave anything there, that you could rely on it, you could take it to the bank, and you could be sure that it belongs to the last guy there. I'm going to prove that you from the following Bryce. In Yerushalayim, if there's many people in Yerushalayim who sell behemoths because people are coming and they're buying karbonas. So if there's money found in front of the booth that was likely dropped by one of the customers, Tosfos was likely dropped by one of the customers and not by the owner of the booth, because you go Basar Roiv, there's many more people. There are many more people buying than there is selling. That's number one. Number two, Rashi says, the money that people normally come with to Yerushalayim to buy behemoths are moist meiser. What they do is they have all this moist meiser sheni, and they have to use it up while they're in Yerushalayim. So they'll buy behemoths, and then they'll bring karbanis, and then they'll eat them there. So that's why most of the money found in front of Soicher behemoths is moist meiser. Zok Tosfos, not only do you say that the roy of the people there are the buyers, but also the money there has a cheskes meiser. So the halach is lo'ila meiser. Any time of the year where you find money in front of Soicher behemoths, we make an assumption that it's moist meiser shein. But the harabayis, if you found money in harabayis itself, chulin, it will be chul. Why? Zok Tosfos, even if it's b'shas, I'm sorry, Zok Rashi, even though it's b'shas haregel, where most people have meiser sheni in their pockets, nevertheless, you go basar the rest of the year, all year round, most of the money is chulin and not meiser. So if you look at all the money that would have fallen in harabayis all through the year, more of it will definitely be moist. Now the question here is, how could you keep that money that's found on harabayis? Why wouldn't you say that the Beis Hamikdash, the harabayis, is kainet? And they bring from here a raya to a shiloh that we can encounter every day. What if you find money on the floor in shul? Are you allowed to keep that money or not? Or do you say belongs to the shul? So the Aguda, quoted by the Magen Avram, brings a raya from this brisa. Moish nimsu lefnei soicher behemah lo'elu ma'aser and b'harbayis chulin. They bring a raya from this Mishnah that there is no kinyan chatzar for the Beis Hamikdash. There's no kinyan, even though everywhere else a chatzar is kinyan, the Beis Hamikdash doesn't have kinyan chatzar, and by extension, a Beis Hamedrash doesn't have kinyan chatzar, and therefore money found in the Beis Hamedrash does not belong to the Beis Hamedrash. Of Yerushalayim, what if you find money stamazoi on the street in Yerushalayim? The Shayim Shana, the rest of the year it will be chulin, because most of the money around is chulin. But the Shas HaRegel, where there's such an abundance of people, that came to be Oila Regel, bringing with them Mois of Meiser, Hakoil Meiser will assume it's Meiser. The problem is, why is there a distinction between Harabayis, where we take all the money of all year round, even though Bizman Yom Tov, most of the money is Meiser, but we look at the whole pot from the whole year, and we say it's Chulin, yet in Yerushalayim, where also most of the year it's all Chulin. It's only Yom Tov time that it's Meiser. So why by Yerushalayim do we say it's different and you only look at what's roiv today? You don't look at the whole year. So the Gemara of Yerushalayim b'shayim ma'tashon nechulim b'b'shas regel akol ma'aser. Why? Why am I b'shmai bar zira my timer? Hoil v'shuke Yerushalayim asuyin l'schabit b'chol yoyim. Yerushalayim is kept clean, and since it's kept clean, every day it was kept clean. So any money that you find fallen on the floor, you can safely assume it fell today. If you bought, you can safely assume it fell today, and today, right people of Meiser to write that this is Meiser. So this proves that if there's a clean between residents, you should assume that it belonged to the last guy. Almar meaning kamoy kamoy. Everyone who left, it's probably not him. Just like the money of Kulin from yesterday is not here anymore. But this is new money that fell today, which is Meiser, or this money belongs to the Balabais who's still remaining in the property. Hakanami kama kama also bahani debasru. So that is the Gemara's kasha. That is the Gemara's kasha. Why didn't it belong to the last guy? Why do you get to keep it? So let's have a look at Rashi over here. My time and we're not kosher that maybe this money is for before Yom Tov. Like we say in Harabayis. The reason is because Shuka Yerushalayim Asuyin L'Schabit B'Chol Yoyim Dok Rashi Imnaf L'Sham L'Fnei Regel. And if this money fell before Yom Tov, Kfar Motzum Mechabdei Yashul. The street cleaners would have already picked it up. This money must have fallen very recently. They keep Yerushalayim clean, but they don't keep Harabayis clean. They didn't have to clean the Harabayis every day. You know why? First of all, since Harabayis is a har, it's inclined. Nowadays we don't see that because hoarders flattened it out. But since Harabayis is Meshupa, they don't need to sweep it because it's going to drain down. Anyway, nobody will enter Harabayis with the dust and the dirt on their shoes. So we don't have to clean it every day. Therefore, any money that falls there could have been there for a very long time. So Rashi, Alma B'Davar Shasi L'Schabit, when it's something that's normally clean, we don't mix in the full year into the mix. We only look at what would have fallen in the last day. Hakanami Stam Soicher Bayis, when you rent a house, Kishu Yosy, when the renter leaves, Mechapis calls the Yosy, he sweeps all its corners when not leshaloi to make sure he doesn't leave any of his personal goods behind. V'yotzin only then does he leave. V'neima, so now you see where Rashi argues on Tosfos, ha'achroinim shakhu, not maybe belongs to the Balabayas. Maybe it's the last tenant. Zilu Rishayim shakhu, if it was forgotten by one of the earlier tenants, farmatu ha'achroinim, the last tenant would have found it. Since this is here, it must have belonged to the last tenant. Amrish Lakish Mishum Bar Kapara, maybe speaking also Pundak L'Shloisha Yisroel. This renter, it wasn't a full house rental, it was a rooming house. And therefore, as Rashi says, L'Shloisha Yisroel B'Vasachas, 3 people rented it together. Or if they were goyim, you don't even need 3, even 1 goy. And therefore, Umisha Nafal Mimenu Miyayish, whoever dropped it would have been Miyayish. The loyada miman the bush. There's 3 people here. If someone loses it, he will be miyayish. Zok to Gemara. Therefore, someone's allowed to come along and take it. But we learn now another very interesting halacha about the psychology of a person. Shemamina, we see from here that the halachic Reb Shimon ben Elazar, who analyzes the psychology of a person, how he thinks and when he gives up. What does that mean? Because first of all, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. Reb Shimon Elazar, remember he said that if you found it b'mokim sharab matzuyin sham, then you can keep it because the bailam are surely miyayish. And the Gemara wanted to know, did Reb Shimon ben Elazar say his halacha only if it's goyim? Because I'm going to assume goyim aren't going to want to return it and they're going to keep it and therefore miyayish. Or do we say even by Rav Yisroel, you have to be choshesh for anoshim she'enim unuganim and therefore he's miyayish? From here, where we said that it's speaking where there's 3 Yidden and the Bailam are still miyayish, you have a riot that Reb Shimon Elazar holds. And of course, this will be going according to Reb Shimon Elazar, that by Rav Yisrael, if there's a lot of Yidden there, a person will be miyayish. Zok Gemara, lav dafka do you have a riot because we can spell it on by goyim. And Rashi says even one is enough. Because by a goy, a person is going to be miyayish. Rab Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua, or no, if it's a goy, you don't have to return a goy Zaveda, that is. Zok to Gemara, Rab Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua, Afilu Table Shloish Yisroel, even if Shloish Yisroel, but you don't have a raya that Rab Shimon ben Elazar holds that a person is normally miyayish when there's eaten. Normally a person is not miyayish when there's eaten. But here there's a special reason why the Bailam is being miyayish. Amar, the Bailam says, Michti. In the Shachrina Loyhava Bahadi Elahani. The only people that are here are myself and my two roommates. Amri Kamayu Kamazimni Lahadruli. I told him several times I misplaced my knife. I misplaced my knife. Did anybody see it? Nobody's returning it. So clearly someone's stealing from me. Lahadruli. The hash for Lahadruli, they're not going to give it back now. So therefore he's miyayish. Normally, if you lose it, the Makam Shor Abbatun Shaman there's Yidden, maybe I won't be miyayish. But here I have special reason to be miyayish because I'm asking for it and they're not telling me about it. Ida Itayu Lahadura, if they were going to return it to me, Adru Naheli, they would have already returned it. Why didn't they return it? Even though I mentioned several times that I lost it, clearly b'tatayu l'migzala, and that's why Dafki in this case of this house, when there's three roommates, do we say that any one of the roommates who lost something will be moichel? Because he sees clearly that he's dealing with people who are in a muganim and they're not giving it back. The other of Nachman l'temei, and of Nachman who uses psychology to understand the person's Yush habits, and he makes this cheshbon that when there's three people, since I'm looking for it and no one's coming forth and saying I found it, he's going to be miyayish. We find Rab Nachman has this shita. Rab Nachman said, Ra Sela, if one saw Sela learning on Tamid Beis, Shanav al Mishnayim, that fell from two people, they're chayiv lahachzer. There we will say that the Bailim were not miyayish. Why not? My timer, because who did not fall minei, a person who it fell from, loy miyayish, he will not be miyayish. You know why? Neymar Amr, he's going to say to himself, Michti, inish achrina lehava ba'doi, elahai. The only possible person that could have taken it was this fellow. Nobody else is here. Therefore, nakitnalei, I'll grab him, v'aminalei, and I'll tell him, antu de shaklose. I'll confront him and I'll say, you took it. And for sure I'll get it back. Why will I get it back? Zokt Rashi the kitnelei mishba'anelei shavu assesses. I'll be able to be mechayivim by money him, and it'll be a koil for a koil. We'll have to make a shavu assesses, and that will stop him from stealing it. Miyad kisha mishamish v'loy motza. He won't be miyayish because even though I know that I'm missing something, I know I can confront this fellow, demand a shavuos hesses, and he'll admit it. So if you found it before I was miyayish because I had full intent of retrieving it. In a kitna, he'll stop a second. Tosfos has a problem. And Tosfos says, speaking that both these people are looking for it. Before this person came along, that's why I'm convinced that it's my friend who stole it, because we're both looking for something. He will never ever be miyayish. He's going to give it back to me, not like Rashi says, because I'm going to be mechayiv mashvuseses. Rather, it's because I will scream at him in public, you ganav what you are. I'll go through where everyone's there and I'll say, you ganav what you are. I'll be mevayishim barabim, and I'll prove to him that he lost it. It's only you or me. It must be you who found it and you're stealing from me. Umashapir Shirashi, that it's al shiyah midas, not shus heses. It's not. He disagrees with it because since I'm not 100% mechadesi, I could be mechayiv no shus heses. But I call them Tosfos learned it's nothing to do with shus heses. It's simply because I'm going to be mevayishim. I'm going to come after him till I get it. So Zok to Gemara. V'amina lahu onto the shachar. But the shloish, if there's three people here, then I can't be so forceful. In the chayv lahachzer, my time, who did novel when they vadim yayish. If there's two people, if there's two suspects then the loser is going to be miyayish. Why? Memo armor, he's going to say, Michti. Trey Habu Bahadoy. There were two people with him. I don't know who the perpetrator is. In the Kittel Lahai, if I go after Ruvain, Amar Lo Shakalte. He'll say, I didn't take it. In the Kittel Lahai, and if I go after Shimon, he'll say Amar Lo Shakalte. So therefore, he's going to be miyayish. So that's the psychology. When I think I can get it back, I'm not going to be miyayish. But when there's two people who are each telling me, look at the other guy, then I'm going to be miyayish. Gewaltig. There's actually a story with a Rav. The Shaila came to a Rav that there were two roommates in a hospice. And the children of one of the very ill people knew that their father kept a lot of cash under his mattress. And when he died, they looked for the cash, it wasn't there. So they knew only the roommate could have taken it. And the roommate's denying it. So what they did was, it's a very funny story. What the Rav said was tell the surviving roommate that he has to do a tkiyas kaf. He has to shake hands with the nifter and tell the nifter while shaking his hand, I didn't take your money. So then he told him, don't bring the body, which you do. One of you should be dressed up in tachrichem like you're dead, and you'll come and you'll give him the hand. They'll give you his hand, and don't let go of the hand. So the guy said to Kieskov, I didn't take your money, and the fellow who was acting like he was the one who died would not let go of his hand. So the guy got spooked, and he said, okay, I got it, and he gave it back to him. Zok to Gemara, Amarava, Hi de Amrit, B'shloisha Eino Chayav L'Hachzer. This that we just said a moment ago, that if there's three people here, you don't have to give it back. Loya Amar, and that Allah is only Elo, the less Bei Shava Pruta L'Kol Chad B'Chad. That's only if there's not a Shava Pruta for each one of the three. So in other words, let's say this item is worth 2 prutos, but there's 3 people here. What if this item was worth 3 shava prutos? Then chayav l'achzer, even though there's 3 people, the guy knows he's not getting it back because either one will push him off to the other one. No, there it's going to be different because my timer emer shutfininu. We have to be choshev. When you find something, you have to be choshev. The 3 people there were all shutfim. Shutfim wouldn't be miyayish if they all owned it equally. And Rashi, you know why? Because each of the shutfim, they're going to say, yeah, one of the 2 shutfim hid it from me, but not because he's really planning to steal it. He's trying to chepe me. He wants to make me think it's lost. What about it? He's going to give it back to me because shutfim trust each other. They're shutfim. If it's less than 3 prutas, then we know they can't be shutfim. Because even if they are shutfim and each one is less than a shava pruta, then there's no chiv hashava unless than a shava pruta. So it wouldn't be a problem. But if there's enough here that each one has a pruta and it's possible to shutfim, then you cannot assume they're going to be miyayish. Ikitami Amarava, Avagad the lesbe el shava shtei prutas. Even if it's only with 2 prutas, still chayiv l'achzer. You know why? Because maybe 2 of the 3 are partners. My time aimer shutfininu. Maybe 2 of the 3 are partners. The chad minayu achulei achlei lemanase gabechever. So they started off as shutfin, and as 3 shutfin were each one at less than the shava pruta, and they stack a no chiv hashava. But they all trust each other because they're shutfin. And now maybe one of them was moichel the chelik to the others. So kum techais, now each of the 2 partners do have a shava pruta, so there is a chiv hashava, and since they all trust each other, nobody was miyayish. So therefore, you only can keep it if you find it on the floor. If there were 3 shutfim, and you don't even have 2 prutas involved there, so therefore it either only belongs to one of them, where he will surely be miyayish. Otherwise, you could say that they're shutfim, and he was not concerned that they would steal it. Rava said, "Sela." So we're on Chavav Medbeis. Sela. Shenafla, a seller that fell on the floor, and now you pick it up. Not what if you picked it up before Yush and you had no intention, of being Mekayim l'suchal of being Mekayim hashav t'shivim, and you took it and you intended to steal it, you intended to keep it for yourself? The halach is over bechula, and you have been over everything. Lo sigzol, you're over. You stole someone's money. Misham hashav t'shivim. You were over the mitzvah, saseh of Hashem and Shivim, And you over on the lav of you're not allowed to overlook if you see your friend sting there. What happens if after you decide you want to do tshuva and you want to now return the seller to the rightful owner? You have not fixed your problem. Matanahu the oivle. We consider it like now you have a matana, but the surah the avad of. So the question is, the Gemara just said now you over on Lesigzo you were over. What can you do? Hashef Teshivim, why were you over? You're giving it back. There's a big silent Rishonim. If you're Mekayim Hashef Teshivim, if you give it back later, if you don't give it back right away, which spins off to a different child, but I want to stick local for a minute. And the Mishum L'Suchal Salam, you definitely walked by and you had no intent of giving it back. Tosfos makes it a little bit more clear because Tosfos asks, why are you not Mekayim Hashef Teshivim? So let's see Tosfos. Matana Ba'am Hu D'Yoivlei, B'Mtayim Perfect Tosfos. But L'Lav L'Sigzol, Mikri Nitek Lasei. We know that L'Sigzol is a Lav HaNitek Lasei. So why are you over L'Sigzol? You're giving it back. The Perak Shalucha came, Imkain, Kivon Dalining Zayla, Lo Mikri Matana. The Mishnah Matana D'Yoivlei. The Gabazela not Matana, it's called a proper Hashava. And you did the Lav HaNitek Lasei, you did the Asei to fix your Lav of L'Sigzol. So if that's the case, Gam Hoshev Teshivim Lo Matike. It's not considered a matana. It's considered I was misakin the Yisroel. So Hashef Teshivim, I was Mekayim as well. So if anything, only the L'Suchal L'Salim is the Aver that's not fixable. Zok Tosfos, you're right. Einach Chinami. Yishloim L'Koi Ella Alav the L'Suchal L'Salim. Why? Sha'avar Shlehichse Kodim Yush. You didn't give it back right away before use. But in fact, Hashef Teshivim, you're able to be Mekayim even after use. Now there's a whole shaila if you're Mekayim Hashef Teshivim if you didn't do it immediately. And there's actually a shaila. What if you have two babies that are having a bris today? One baby today is day number 8, and another baby was yellow, and today it's not number 8, it's past number 8. Which child are you going to give a bris to first? So there are those teachers who hold the B'yoyim HaShemini is the main chiyuv, so surely it should be the child that's on day 8. Others hold it's like your credit card balance. They always apply whatever you pay to the oldest balance. But there's a tzad to say that there's a din of Zriza Makdimin. So maybe you should do the day 8. So there's a whole shaila if the halacha of Zriza Makdimin LaMitzvahs, is that like a nice way to do a mitzvah? Or does that actually make a different mitzvah? Does that make the mitzvah? And therefore, you'll have this Zriza Makdimin on the Yom HaShmini, but you don't have this Zriza Makdimin anymore on the baby that's not the 8. Could be. There's such a shiloh. Yeah. Okay, so to more about here. So that's if you gave it back after years. How about not years? When you picked it up, you were not able to. You had every intent of giving it back, and then the bottom of your eyes, and then you reconsidered. Well, you changed your mind. So then the halach is over mishum hashef teshivim. You were not over l'suchal l'salam. You picked it up to give it back, but you're not going to be mekayim hashef teshivim because you're not giving it back. What happens if you didn't even pick it up? You didn't pick it up. Him didn't launch in the shaishu abayim. You bedavka waited. I don't want to pick it up now because if I pick it up now, I'll have to give it back. So I'll wait till there'll be me. I said I'll pick it up, and then we're not law. So then ain't over elam mishum l'suchal l'salam bulvad. You're not able to sigzol when you took it to buy them on miyai. You're not able to hashef teshivim to buy them on miyai. But you were over by not picking it up right away. You were over l'suchal l'salam. Amarava, Haiman the chazi the nafal zuzah mechavre bechals. What if you see someone who's walking down the beach and he dropped coins on the beach and mixed into the sand? There's never a way that he'll find it. And therefore, and you took it, and you took it. You don't have to return it. You can assume it's miyayish. My time, who did nafal minei miyayishu? He's right away miyayish. I afal gad the chaza the asi arbel the kamarble. You see, he brought a sifter and he's sifting through the sand, meaning he wasn't miyayish. He's still looking for his coin. He brought his metal detector. So Gemara, no. He's not really looking for his own coin. He was for sure miyayish on his own coin that he lost. What are the chances of finding it? But rather, his cheshbon is the reason why he's sifting is I'm sure somebody else lost. So I might find something. It might not be mine. It might be somebody else's, but at least I can recoup some of my losses. I'll find some. What if you find money on the floor in a store? You can keep it. You can assume it dropped from the multitude of customers. What about between the counter where the chavani sits and behind the counter? So clearly, I'm sorry. I hear. So what if it's been a table chavani? Then shalchavani that belongs to the chavani. Now a shulchani was a person who just changed money, and he had a little bit of a different layout. He didn't have a box with soyer in front of him. Rather, there was like a frame on which he put a platform, and that's where they did their money exchange. So lefnei shulchani, if you found it in front of the shulchani, and that for sure means on the floor in front of this table, the Gemara is going to discuss what if it's on the table itself. But for now, we're speaking about lefnei shulchani in front of the shulchani, harelu shaloi. But ben akizei shulchani, if it's between the kisei is the frame that held up the plywood that was their surface that they worked on, then harelu shosha. So the Gemara is going to wonder what if it's on the what if it's actually on the tabletop itself. The teva by a chavani, that's the box where he keeps the schor. Sure, that's his. But the table, the shulchani does his business. That's going to be a shaila. The Gemara is going to end up making a diak from our Lashon Mishnah. When it talks about a chanus, it says matzah b'chanus. He found it in the store. It doesn't say, but a case of shulchani, matzah b'shulchanus. You found it in a bag. It says matzah lefnei shulchani. There's a very distinct difference between how the Gemara expresses the customer side of this place, and that's going to come to play soon. Halakeach pears mechaverin. Someone buys fruits from his friend. Pears. So I bought a big bushel of fruit, and now I'm taking the apples out of the bushel. I found money. You can keep it. And the way it worked is when you bought pears from a merchant, he probably didn't grow those pears. He goes over to all the individuals, he buys all the pears that individuals plant in their garden, and then he sells them. So we have no idea who is the supplier of these goods. It's not like there's a serial number and it's traceable. So therefore you get to keep it. But if they're tied up, then he has to call out the money. In the Gemara will explain. Zok to Gemara. So Rashi says tzurin is have a simin, a kesher, a minion shaben. If they're in a bundle, then there's a siman with which you can call out, and someone who lost the money here, or if it's one of the planters, one of the producers of the fruit, they'll be able to identify them. Even if they're on the shulchan, they belong to the public. The case of the shulchan. So on the floor, outside of the shulchan, sure belongs to the public. On the table itself, Rabbi Loza wants to say it will belong to the public as well. It does not belong to the shulchan. Tanan we learned our Mishnah. Lefnei shulchani arei elu shaloi. So Ibazoi, that's only in front of the shulchan, not on the table itself. So can it not be medayik? Ha'agabi shulchan, it should belong to the shulchani. Zok Gemara, no, because Ema Seifa, if you look at the second half, it has the opposite mashmayis. Vein akizei lo shulchani, shal shulchani, goes to the shulchani. So I can be medayik. Ha'agabi shulchan, if it's on the tabletop itself, shaloi, and the finder gets to keep it. So since we have contradictory mashmayisin, we can't bring a right from our Mishnah. It could mean that, but we don't know for sure that it means. So that's we want to bring a right. We don't have a right either. Rabbi Lozer, so Haminoli, Rabbi Lozer was sure that if you find it on the tabletop, that's public money. How does he know that? He actually learned it from our Mishnah. We said you can't be medayik. You're right, you can't be medayik. But there's other nuances in the Mishnah that actually reveal this halacha. My area, the Tani Beina Kisei l'Shulchani. Why did the Mishnah say what belongs to the Shulchani? Davka Beina Kisei l'Shulchani. So Shulchani, listening if the part that's on the tabletop belongs to the Shulchani, listening ala Shulchan. It should say that for favors. So that's not such a good raya because you can make the same deal the opposite way. Right? It should have said he found it al shulchan haril shaloi, but it's the next raya that's the main raya. Inami mata b'shulchanois k'dekatani reisha mata b'chanus shaloi. It should say if he found it anywhere in this store, it belongs to him. It doesn't say that. It says davka lefnei shulchan. Mashma, it's not on the table. Mashma, it's before him. Elishma mina, exactly the opposite. The Balta doesn't say Matzah b'shulchanos. It says lefnei shulchani. It will tell you that anything in front of the shulchani belongs to the public. Elamai, it must be Elishma mina. Afilu monachin al gabi shulchan harei elu shalom. Let's see Rashi. Listen al gabi shulchan. Shal shulchani v'chol shulchan b'nikisha shulchani inami nisni b'reisha Matzah b'shulchanos. That's how we should have introduced this case. Kedekatani reisha Matzah b'chanos. We did not get lefnei shulchani. It means af al shulchan b'mashma. Anything that's in front of the shulchani is harei elu shalom, even if it's on the table. That's where Belazar got his halacha. Zok more vater halakech peirs mechaveri amar shlakish b'shum b'yanai loishanu ella v'lakech v'nataga. This halacha that you get to keep the money because we don't know where it came from is only if you bought it from a merchant who bought. He consolidated the pairs of many individuals who supplied him with pairs. As Rashi says, so he himself doesn't know where it came from. We have no idea who is the producer of these pairs, so we don't know who the money belongs to. But if you bought from a private grower, because surely it came from the private grower, and surely he won't be miyayish because he knows that you're going to identify who he was. Because for sure to buy them with miyayish. Amar Rab Nachman, I don't understand. You think every producer of fruit does everything himself? He's the business owner, he's the landowner, but he probably has a whole team of people who did it. And the team that he has could have been he has many day workers. So any day worker, anybody who worked for him could have dropped our money. So why would you give it back to him? Fighter, anyone involved is going to be miyayish. Zok to Gemara, Amalei, you have a very good point. Is Samya? Shall I cross this brisa out and say that it's wrong and say that even by lekech balabayis you don't have to give it back? Amalei loy. To targum asnisin kigoyin shedoshna ide avde v'shevchaz eknaim. Say that when do you have to give it back to the balabayis? That's if he doesn't hire employees. If he has slaves, kanainim, do all the work on his behalf. Then whatever they would have dropped was his anyway. Then you have to give back to the balabayis. But if he is a regular employer and he might have had one of many employees could have lost this, surely they would be miyayish and you'd be allowed to keep it. Okay, we'll stop here in Be'ez Hashem and we will continue tomorrow. Tomorrow through next Tuesday I'm only going to be available on Zoom because I'm driving to Lakewood today. Okay, everyone should have a wonderful day.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.